Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with day 2 of getting the new Tomb King's Bone Dragon painted. Like I said in the first video, this is very kindly sponsored by Underworld Gaming, a local independent hobby store here in the Dublin area. Their primary focus is to bring you the best events in Ireland, and they run those events every single week. And you can check out their events calendar on their website, which I will link down below. So if you're interested in card games or RPGs or 40k or Age of Sigmar or anything like that, then that's the place to get playing it if you're in Dublin. I, for instance, will be playing in the first Old World tournament that's being ran in Ireland on the 10th of this month, and I'm very excited. I'm going to be taking my Bretonians. So yeah, if you want to check those guys out, link in the description below. Big thank you to them for sending out this box set so I have the opportunity to paint that bone dragon. And that's what I'm going to do here today. Yesterday's video I showed you guys how to paint the dragon itself, and today's video I'm going to show you how to paint the, I'm going to call it a howdah, I guess. It's not really a saddle, it's much bigger than that, so I'm going to go with a howdah. So the howdah and the Tomb King that sits on top of it. And then by the end of this video, I should combine the two and have a finished model. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. You guys are amazing. I could not keep doing this channel without you guys, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you're interested in getting involved, there'll be links in the description below, access to private Discord server, and an extra video every single week are just two of the awesome benefits of being involved. Okay, without further ado, let's get stuck in to painting this Tomb King. Okay guys, with this we have quite a lot to get through in this video with having to paint an entire Tomb King, which normally would be a video by himself, and then his howdah to put him on top of the dragon as well. So we are going to paint a little bit faster today, talk a little bit faster, and go a little bit faster through the steps, just so this video isn't an hour long. So the models were all sprayed black and then sprayed grey sear, as is tradition with me painting the miniatures. And then I grabbed some Plague Bearer flesh and I applied this to all of the showing skin on the king himself. Obviously this guy is not a skeleton, he is kind of like a mummy. So he does have some necrotic flesh showing through. So I thought the best way to start that would be with a bit of Plague Bearer flesh. And as you can see, I think it was the correct choice. From here we jumped over to Basilicanum Grey Contrast. And we're going to use this for all of the cloth showing in the miniature except for his cape. So he does seem to have a dull grey cloth for his like skirt thing. There's a little bit showing through the broken scale mail that's on his chest. There's like a second set of like sleeves. So just make sure you go in and get all of those with Basilicanum Grey. I also used it for his headdress. He's like wearing a crown, but everything else over his head is like fabric. So I did that in the same grey as well. After that, we jumped over to Blood Angel's Red Contrast and applied this to his cape. The entire cape got done in a very quick coat of Blood Angel's Red Contrast. I really do like the look of red capes on models like this. He's obviously a lot of gold. Red and gold go so well together. It just looks really good. And this Tomb King by himself, I kind of wish I just had him to put on a base and use as a normal guy, but I did end up gluing him in at the end. So that option has left my ability. That's not how you say that, but let's just ignore that bit anyway. From here, we're going to go into Retributor Armor Gold. And this is very simple. We're going to paint all the gold bits, which is pretty much all of the metallics left on this guy, bar the blade of his big two-handed Khopesh. So gold is going to be a prevalent color across this miniature. So obviously his shin guards, he's got wrist van braces, he's got some chest armor, some scale mail, huge big shoulder pads, his crown, his big gnarly, what's like that? Collar of his cape, even though it's not really a collar of his cape, it's a big armored prow, and then obviously some details on his bladed sword. Then we grabbed some lead belcher and quickly did the blades of his Khopesh. So there's a little blade on the top, a little bit coming out the back to protect his fingers, and then obviously the big one going on above the top. So that's really the only parts of this miniature that is lead belcher. If you're wondering what color I did all the straps holding his van braces and his shin armor on, I used that Basilicanum Grey with that color as well, just so it would be the same kind of cloth material. Okay, he's looking pretty good so far. Blood Angel's Red was then broken back out again because we have to do the alternating red and blue kind of color design that seems to be across all Tomb Kings. Big fan of this. Now, in the pictures that they show, they have it across his van brace and across his shins and everything like that. Those bits are tiny. I don't really want to spend hours and hours doing that, so I just focused on some of the more kind of key areas. So the big bit that goes across his chest and his big collar. Those are the only two bits that I did with the red and blue kind of alternating color scheme tile thing that Tomb Kings are known for. The rest, I just left a really nice gold color. By the time I get to the end of this, I don't think you notice anything missing. I think it looks really cool. Talazar Blue is brought in, obviously for the alternating tiles on his armor, for the red and blue. Nothing really much to say here. I'm using a contrast to apply these colors very quickly. But of course, the whole model is going to get shaded, and then we're going to layer up these sections later on anyway. So if you make a little mistake here or there, it's not the end of the world. We can fix it in post-production. So don't panic. Okay, so this is the miniature with all of the base coats applied. So now I'm going to throw a Reichland Flesh shade all over the entire miniature. This is going to shade down all the areas of this miniature perfectly. Give me some nice dark recessed color to work with when I want to layer up the model. It works so good over gold and red because Reichland Flesh shade obviously has quite a warm tone to it, being a skin tone. It just works a treat. I've used Reichland Flesh shade over gold for I don't know how many years now. It's always my go-to. As you can see with the shade applied, the model is looking pretty well. We're just going to, of course, wait for it to fully dry, and then we are going to begin the process of layering it up. Normally this is the bit where I would base the miniature, but I based it yesterday. I painted his dragon. Happy so far? So from here, I'm going to go over to Krieg Khaki. I'm not going to spend years layering up every part of this 3 or 4 times. Everything is just going to get basically one coat highlight. So for his skin, Krieg Khaki was the one of choice. It's basically like rotting flesh, kind of necrotic color. It does work an absolute treat for layering up this mummy skin. But you got to take your time and make sure you follow the higher points. He does actually have, even though he's quite a thin figurine, he clearly works out and his defined musculature is there. So it is quite an easy model to highlight with that in mind. Making sure the sharp features of his face, minus his nose that he doesn't have, are also highlighted. From here, we're going to go over to Mechanicus Standard Grey, and that's for, of course, all of those grey cloth bits. We're going to add a quick highlight to all those bits. Following the direction that the kind of wind is pulling all the fabric, we're going to line highlight from there. Leaving that shade all in the recesses. We need some nice dark contrast between the grey and the shadows as well. So far so good. From here we're going to move on to layering up the cape. We're going to go for Mephiston Red. Now this is where I am going to lie a little bit. So I am going to do a 2-stage highlight on the red cape because it's such a bright and vibrant and such a key pivotal part of the miniature. I think it deserves 2 coats. So I'm going to go for Mephiston Red first and give it a nice solid coat. Not solid, but you know what I mean, a highlighted coat. Leaving all the recesses nice and dark, but all the higher folds of the fabric done nice and bright. While I'm here, I'm also going to add the first highlight to all of the red tiles that go across the Tomb King himself. Evil Sun Scarlet was then the red I used for the final highlight, and this is very much for all of the top facing folds of fabric. All the bottom bits can be left the previous color nice and dark. This will add a really nice highlighted area and make the cape really pop. This is the kind of bright and vibrant red that really does stand out next to the gold. And I think it looks amazing. I actually have a bit of an issue myself when it comes to red and gold. I have to stop painting it. So many times I pick up a miniature, I'm thinking, what kind of paint job will work for this guy? I know, I've never done red and gold before. And then you look at my cabinets and like 9 of my armies are red and gold, so I gotta lay off it a little bit. Thousand Suns Blue was then used to highlight the blue tiles on his armor. Once again, a very quick step. A single coat was used. Single coat was all that was needed. Now I did honestly go in with a little dot of white and put it into the top left corner of all of those tiles to give it a little bit of a reflection before I moved on to the next step, but I did forget to record it, or at least forget to get any decent footage of me recording it. So from here we're going to work on all the metallics. So for this we're going to go for Ironbreaker. With Ironbreaker, we're going to highlight all of the gold and silver parts of this miniature using my traditional little touch highlight style, just following the sharp lines of the armor or any other gold detail or silver detail in the miniature. As you can see, I'm just kind of just dabbing it on, all the sharp bits, all the corners. Very quick, very easy. Once you get the hang of this little technique, it's so quick and so easy, makes painting armies a doddle. pallid witch flesh was then used to highlight his teeth. Basically make them defined. And then I also used pallid witch flesh for the balls of his eyes as well, because I knew I wanted to throw a nice bright green contrast in there to give him his glowing green eyes, which is traditional for the Tomb King. So as you can see, I got those bright eyes in, and then I just grabbed some Mantis Warrior green and I threw that in to his eye sockets, which gave us that perfect glowing green look is what we were going for. Okay, with him out of the way, it was time to move on to the howdah, which is a whole other project in itself. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If I didn't kind of talk fast or blaze my way through this particular video, then we would have had to do this as a separate piece, which is not really what I wanted to do. So Acalian green was brought out as the first coat on all of the stonework. So all of the constructed stone, Tomb Kings are a big fan of that kind of bluey grey stone. So I thought Acalian green would be the perfect starting point for getting that done. So I carefully applied that to all of those bits that I could find that I thought were that particular color, which is actually quite a lot of it, to be honest with you. And I think it was the right choice as a starting color. I really like how this looks. It's funny how a single starting color can kind of put you in the right mood for painting the rest of it. Agros Dunes was then brought in, and this is for more of like the understructure and kind of bits that hold up other bits, if you know what I mean. So the bit that obviously gets this piece attached to the dragon is going to go all Agros Dunes, plus the big bits that run up its back, which keep the kind of bannery thing aloft. And of course the seat. The seat actually has a red coating over the top of it, or a red tattered old blanket or something over the top of it. But underneath that, we're going to get done with Agros Dunes as well. So it's all the kind of wickery looking stuff we're going to get done with the Agros Dunes. Trying not to hit too much other areas like the blue. There is obviously, of course, straps and stuff that are holding this in place. We'll get to that color in a moment. Obviously, the giant skull on the front got done with the coat of that as well, and the bones in between that. Blood Angel's red was then brought in, and obviously this was for that fabric-y cloth that was draped over his saddle. This was not my creative choice. This is, of course, from the box art itself. He likes to have his little red blankie in case he gets scared on the battlefield. He should be scared. The Bretonnians are coming for him, put him in his place. So a red blankie is of course necessary. Once again, with this option, we're going to work through the tiles that are on this miniature as well. At least we will a little bit later on. Obviously this model has quite large tiles as well. So these are things you're going to give a little bit of extra attention to. The ones on the Tomb King or anything like that are just so small, you don't really need to put a hell of a lot of effort in. Retributor Armor Gold was then brought in for quite a lot of the other parts of it are going to be done in gold. Obviously the big wings, the crown going across the giant skull in the center, and a few other bits and pieces that you can find. Get them done in a nice solid coat of gold. 2 thin coats if you want to make sure you get the coat you're after. All in all, painting up the Bone Dragon was actually quite an enjoyable process. Breaking it up into these kind of like 3 parts, the dragon itself, the Tomb King, and then the howdah, has made it all very accessible and very enjoyable. And perhaps that is the way you want to go ahead and paint it yourself. Focus on the dragon first, and then maybe the howdah, then the prince, and then put it all together at the end for a finished piece. I have a Tomb King's shield that I want to glue on somewhere as well, and of course the zombie cat needs to get done and glued in place. There's no way he's going to get left aside. I just didn't have time to fit it into this video, so unfortunately the kitty got left behind for right now. But he'll be involved in the next glorious dragon charge. A bit of Black Templar was used for whatever is hanging above the bannery thing. I know it's not a banner, but I don't know what it's called. Howdah. It seems to be a different kind of material. It's painted different, so I don't know how glorious it is or how important it is, so we did it in black. After that, we grabbed some lead belcher. And we got all the chains holding all the different parts of this back piece together. So again, it's not a very important step. It's just make sure you get it done. Nice solid coat. And there's obviously a couple of silver parts on the back as well for the kind of ends of those kind of bamboo poles holding it all together. So we're going to do that in silver as well. Gorgrunt of Fur was then brought in for all of the straps. Now this is the same color that I used on all of the straps for the Bone Dragon itself. So that's where I talked about in yesterday's video. Those 2 colors will blend together and it will look like a solid single piece. Making sure you do that with some models is important. If I decide to do a different strap color for this, and then I glued it onto the dragon, and all of a sudden they don't match each other, it's going to look a little bit weird. Not that this model is going to look particularly normal, being a Egyptian bone dragon. As you can see, taking my time. I don't want to hit the blue or any of the Agros dunes with this color, as it is quite a staining color. Okay, it was time to go in and work on all of those tiles. So we started, of course, with the traditional blue, Talazar blue for all those, making sure we do every second one, and then we jump up to the second line of them, and it's the alternate ones, if that makes sense. So with these ones, the blue one is the first one, and then in the second line, the blue one starts from the second one in and then leapfrogs all the way down. If that didn't make any sense, just look at the picture. From here, we're going to go to Blood Angels Red and do exactly the same thing, but in the opposite tiles. Quick and easy steps. Like I said previously, when I painted Tomb Kings, I don't know how many years ago, these were the kind of things that I would have left out. I would have just left that bit gold. But I now kind of understand and respect color choices a little bit more. They weren't just done to annoy us as painters and add extra detail in. They are there to break up the blue and the gold and have some spot colors with models. So I tend to just follow along with what colors they're supposed to be, and it gives me quite good results that I tend to be quite pleased with. We're back over to the Reichland Flesh shade, which I applied all over this piece. Once again, helped shade it all together. And of course, help blend the Tomb King and his howdah as one solid piece, because they share a shade. So all their shadows are going to match. And all the golds and reds and blues are also going to be the same tone across that piece. This is one where obviously you're going to make sure that it does not pool. It tried to pool on me at the bottom of those golden wings, which is a disaster. That's the worst place that could pool. Very much standout parts. People will definitely notice it. So you got to be careful with it. Sotek Green was then brought in after that shade was dry, and that's the first thing we used to highlight all of the blue stonework. I said that's the first thing, like there was many things. This was the only color I used to highlight all the stonework. I think I chose the correct color. Gave me a nice, bright, vibrant blue, but it definitely still looked like that kind of magical stonework that the Tomb Kings are famous for. It will definitely tie in with stuff like my Hierotite? No. Necrosphinx is the word that I had to pause the video there to try and remember. Don't know why that escaped my brain, but it will match with my Necrosphinx just fine. Okay, with the blue applied, we're going to move over to Ironbreaker, and we're going to use a little small dry brush for this to hit all the gold. This just speeds up the process immensely. It's all pretty much separate from the other parts, so you can go in with a light dry brush and get that done. You could have chosen to do this before you did the blue and any other bits of layering. Just in case you hit those, you would have been able to correct it. That would have been the smart thing to do. I never said I was smart. Xandri Dust was then brought in to highlight or layer up the giant skull that is embedded in this piece. We're going to go for a two-stage highlight on this because I really like this piece. And I want it to stand out. This was an old bone giant that perhaps he raised from the dead himself and has fought valiantly with him for many hundreds of years before it was finally destroyed. And maybe he has kept its skull as a trophy. Or for all you know, it's a reincarnated thing and the giant skull actually talks to the guy. You're never sure. Ushabti Bone was then the next highlight color brought in. As you've seen, less is more. It was just for more of the higher raised areas, leaving some of that dark Xandri Dust in all the recesses. But it helped to make the skull pop once again. Obviously, it's quite a key feature. The print that stands in front of this doesn't block it at all. So you're definitely going to notice it when you look down on the table. You know the deal now with layering up the reds and the blues. It's the air paints that I use, Mephiston Red or Evil Sun Scarlet. And then the Thousand Suns Blue to highlight the bluebirds. I've done it now 3 or 4 times in videos. I've done it earlier in this video, so I was loath to repeat myself again, just to try and save you guys a little bit of pain. Once again, doing my best to be neat and tidy with this stage. And this is where I apply the ard coat to this. And like I said earlier, I did add a touch of white to the top left of all of those, just to give the faint idea of a reflection. Nothing crazy, but I did want these tiles or panels or gems or whatever they're supposed to be to stand out, and the coat of ard coat will definitely do that to a piece. From here, I grabbed my dragon that I painted in yesterday's video, snapped this guy off his temporary painting handle, Obviously dry fitted them, then added some super glue and glued it into place. This left me with this, a beautiful bone dragon with a nice colorful howdah on top of it. Really pleased with how this has turned out. I would definitely be keen to paint up a second bone dragon and do the other variant as well. The howdah on it is quite differently. The character riding it is obviously quite different. Maybe I'd do something different with the bone dragon, try and convert it a little bit just so it's not exactly the same. Am I skilled enough to do that? Who knows. Obviously, I glued the Tomb King in place. That is his final resting place. This is all one solid model now. The only thing that's really missing is a zombie cat that, like I said, we will get to in the very near future. But until then, I have my finished bone dragon ready to be deployed into battle alongside a host of Tomb Kings. Phalanxes of spearmen and cohorts of archers are all ready to serve. This guy will definitely ride into battle and tell you to bend the knee. Some nice high definition images to give you guys an example of what he will actually look like on a tabletop. Like I said, this is a piece that I'm very happy and grateful to Underworld Gaming for providing to me, which has allowed me to make this video to help you guys out. So I hope it was helpful. Like I've said at the end of a bunch of other videos, if there's anything specific in the old world you want to see me paint up or help you get through, just let me know in the comments below. I am very amenable to helping you guys out with lots of different old world projects, as I am currently so engrossed in it and loving absolutely every second of it. Okay guys, and there we have it, our finished Tomb King riding his bone dragon into battle, all finished up and ready for the tabletop. I do have an awful lot of Tomb Kings myself. Unfortunately, I did try and convert them and play them in Age of Sigmar, so they're all on circle bases. So I'm going to have to break them all off those and put them back on square bases again, which is going to take a hell of a lot of time. But I think it'll be worth it to get this guy on the table with a nice army. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little mini series, 2 videos to get the dragon done. If you did, make sure you give the video a like. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below. And if you're interested in winning a Titan, that is my goal for the end of this year, is to give one of you awesome people a Titan. How I'm going to do that is based on the number of subscribers I have. My goal, lofty goal as it is to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If I manage to reach 65,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I will give away a free Warhound. 85,000 subscribers, I will give away a free Reaver. And if I get to 100,000 subscribers, I will give away a Warlord Titan to one of you awesome people. To enter, all you need to do is subscribe. Thank you so much for sticking around at the end of the video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.